Hey guys, so we are going to now start our lesson over division with fractions. Okay, so today hopefully you will be able to use models and equations to represent fraction division. So this first explore it, you guys can look at this, explore it on your own. We are going to move to our examples, okay? Our first thing, though, that we have here is a little bit new, is that we have a vocabulary term because it's important to know some of our vocabulary. So our only vocabulary word right now is called reciprocal. Okay, so this is when we have two numbers whose product, so that's the answer to a multiplication problem, is 1. So for example, so here's some examples of a reciprocal, is if I have 3/4, the reciprocal to that is 4/3. Okay, so our reciprocal, we're just kind of, if I were to multiply across, it would simplify to 1. Okay, for example of another one, if I had 2, the reciprocal of 2 would be 1/2. Okay, because we have that invisible 1 here when we have a whole number. So again, kind of flip over your number so that the 1 is now the numerator over 2. Okay, so there's our first vocabulary word. All right, so now moving on to our example. Mr. Roberts has a board that is 3 feet long. He plans to cut the board into pieces that are 3/4 foot long to build a set of shelves. How many shelves can he make? All right, so we're taking this 3-foot board and we are dividing it into 3/4 foot sections. Okay. So when we are dividing fractions, there's a little phrase that we can use to kind of help us, where it is keep, change, flip. So the flip is the reciprocal, okay? This reciprocal word that we just learned, okay? So if I keep, that means you keep the first number. So keep the first number, but I'm going to make it a fraction because we're dealing with fractions. Change division to multiplication, and then flip the last one. So instead of 3/4, we have 4/3. Okay, so now I can use my simplifying, my butterfly method here. If I look at 3 and 3, I can divide both of those numbers by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 3 divided by 3 is 1, and then multiply across. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1, which simplifies to just 4. So 4 pieces here. Okay, now pause the video and go ahead and do the try it and the convince me. And then in a moment here, you will be able to check your answer. So please pause the video while you try these on your own. All right, so you should have answered your try it and convince me. Let's see how you did. So we have 6 feet long, that is divided by 2/3. So we want to keep the first one, make it into a fraction, change to multiplication, and then let's flip our last fraction. Okay, looking at my diagonals, 1 and 3 are already simplified, but I have 6 and 2 here. So divide by 2, I get 1. Divide by 2, I have 3. So now multiply across. I have 3 times 3, which is 9. 1 times 1, which is 1. So 9 was your answer here. So now in your convince me, were some more practice problems. So 12 divided by 3/8. Here we have 12/1 times 8/3. Again, I can simplify here, so I'm going to do that. So divide by 3, I get 1. Divide by 3, I have 4. So now I have 4 times 8, which gives me 32. 3 divided by 1/4. Keep, change, flip. Nothing to simplify here, but multiply across, and I get 12. Okay, so now let's look at example 2. So example 2, it says here we're going to divide fraction by whole number. So how much cake will each person get if 3 friends decide to share half a cake equally? So I have 1/2 divided by 3. I'm going to keep my 1/2, so keep, change to multiplication, and then flip. So remember our whole numbers, we put that 1 under it. So now I have 1/3, and that's the flip. Okay, so multiply across, I get 1/6. So each friend is going to get 1/6 of the cake. All right. Here we have again, so example 3, we're using our relationships to divide whole numbers by fractions. It's some more practice here, guys. So we have 4/1. We're going to change and then flip. Okay, looking again, those guys can simplify, divide by 2, 1, divide by 2, 2, multiply across, we get 6. And over here we want 8/1, change and flip. At any point, guys, if I am moving too fast through any part, you need time to write something down, please pause the video. That's the advantage that you guys have by doing a little video lesson here, is that you guys can pause it whenever you need to pause it. So here I have nothing that will simplify with 8 and 3, so I'm going to just multiply straight across. So I have 8 times 4, which gives me 32. And then 1 times 3, which is 3, and I'm going to change it into a mixed number. So 3 will go into 30 10 times with 2 left over. All right, so again, it takes us to pretty much the end of our lesson here. We have our key concept, describing again exactly everything that we did, dividing a whole number and a fraction and a fraction and a whole number, and showing the example here, simplifying. So now here's your do you understand and your learning target. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, write down what you think as your answers here, and we'll go over in just a minute. So how can you represent division fractions? So division of fractions. So one thing that we can do is use a model by just kind of drawing a line and dividing that. We can use a model. We can kind of use an equation, is what we did a lot of today. So we can use equations as well. Example, our number 2 here said, is 4 divided by 3/2 the same as 4 divided by 2/3? So one quick way you could do that is just kind of do the math here. If I am dividing, remember I have to flip it, set them up, and just kind of look. Are they the same problem here? So no, they're not the same problem. Okay, we're going to have a different answer for each one of those if I were to complete the problem. Okay, with the flip of our numbers, they're both division problems, so I have to flip this, give the reciprocal of this last number no matter what, which then inverts what we have here. So rate yourself, guys, and then you can get started on your homework.